soon as the ball was snapped, I fair caught it. It didn't matter how far it was going. I fair caught. I was like, I don't know if I can return this, but I definitely am going to catch this first. Let me woosah. Let me relax. I said, I'm going to catch this punt. Maybe next time I'll try to return it. You look back at that film, I'm sure that fair catch book came out before the ball even was punted. I was like, I'm not even going to roll the dice here. I'm just going to make sure I catch it before I even try to do anything else.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
To the best fans in the world, Hawkeye Nation, thank you. Your unwavering support, energy, and passion make every game day unforgettable. Whether it's cheering in Kinnick, traveling on the road, or flooding social media with black and gold pride, you are the heart and soul of this program. Your loyalty and love for Iowa football inspires us every day. Thank you for being the greatest fans in the world. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the best stories, moments, and insights from our incredible lineup of guests. Today's episode is a special one, a compilation of some of the most unforgettable tales from the world of Iowa football. Whether you're here for inspiration, humor, or a trip down memory lane, we've got something for everyone. Now let's listen to Matt Hughes relive some of the stories from the Hayden Fry era.
Good, bad, or indifferent. It was an unbelievable 5 years of greatness, great people, great times, great memories.
What was the game that you look back on as your best? I know that Penn State game, you guys were awesome, getting sacks, fumbles. That was huge. But is there another game that you feel like that was my best one or best couple games?
Yeah, I had a couple sacks in that game. The week before, I was Big Ten Player of the Week against Indiana. I got my only pick of my career that week. I had a bunch of tackles. Every time I played really well against Ohio State. When we played Ohio State, Andy Katzenmeyer and myself both got players of the game, and both times, even though they won both of the games. My first game starting, do you remember the bad games more than the good ones? I remember getting owned every time we played Arizona. I remember my first start in '96. We won, but man, I got smacked around pretty bad. I was lucky they let me go out the next game. I wasn't making many good plays that first game. The more you're out there, the game starts to slow down. You start to understand reads. You start to understand the game. When the bullets are flying and you're young, it's crazy fast. The only thing that gets you through that is experience, being out there, taking the shots.
Did he just sneak in a Hayden Fryism there?
Which one?
Man, when the bullets start flying?
When the bullets
that felt awful similar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was just the way of talking. When he'd say, we talk about somebody that's slow, he can't run out of sight in a week. To me, I hear that. I'm like, that's normal. But I say that today, and they're like, what'd you just say?
You need to decipher for me, see red and smell horseshit then, because I was like, I'm not quite on top of that one.
I enjoyed that saying. I have no idea what it means.
Okay, I don't feel bad.
Zero crew. I still don't know what's wrong with being a shoe clerk. Somebody's parent was a shoe clerk, and they probably took offense to that. There's no profession for pissant, but
very disrespectful for shoe clerks. Yep.
To put that in the same category as a pissant and a shoe clerk. Man, I'm just glad my dad didn't sell shoes, man.
Oh, that's hilarious. Let's dive into your journey after school.
I played in the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. My agent sent me down to New Orleans to train. Donovan McNabb was there. Everybody knew he was going to be a first-round draft choice, if not the first guy taken. There were people having cars delivered to practice, spending money they didn't have. He took a ride every day to practice. I'm like, dude, you're about to make more money than you know what to do with. Why don't you just get a car like everybody else? My mom told me you don't spend money until you got it. To watch him have the success and to be the player he was, did all that much more cool for me to watch, because some people deserve it, man, and they didn't take it for granted.
Next up, we're diving into a story with Jake Olson, a name you might recognize from his musical talents as a member of an Iowa cover band named Van Hayden. In this segment, he shares some unforgettable moments blending music, football, and Hawkeye pride. Let's tune in to hear Jake's unique perspective and passion for all things Iowa football.
It came about during COVID. Everybody was sitting in their basement. We'd been in bands in college. When COVID hit, me and another buddy just started saying, what should we do? We're just bored sitting in our basement. We said, why don't we just learn a Van Halen album front to back? We started practicing and got pretty good. We're like, when can we perform this in front of people? We didn't tell anyone we were doing it. It started with one of those texts. It would be funny if we pulled up, didn't say anything, didn't tell anyone, and just jumped out and started playing Van Halen music for our tailgate. They would go nuts. What's our band name? What if we dressed up like Hayden Fry and called ourselves Van Hayden? You just start laughing and texting each other. But what are we going to jump out of? Right? We get a wagon and a trailer, but how are we going to get that up and down Melrose? We're going to get arrested. All of a sudden, I was driving through Claremont, Iowa. They were selling an old used ambulance. That's got power. It's got everything we need. If we piled speakers in, we could make this into a mobile platform. The other guy we were working with, he's an electrical guy. My brother's an electrical engineer. We started figuring out how the guitars, the mics, everything runs off a wireless transmitter to the ambulance. My drums, I've got a set that you would give to your 15-year-old that says, hey, Dad, I want to play drums. He does that for 15 minutes and he quits. My buddy figured out how to run it off 2 9-volt batteries. It was all self-contained in the ambulance. This will work perfect. We'll pull up to the tailgate, we'll jump out, play Van Halen songs, then jump back in and drive away. Everybody will did 5 idiots dressed like Hayden Fry just jump out of an ambulance, play Van Halen songs, and then drive away. Where it started to get out of control was we bought an $8,000 ambulance. This is seeming like a little more than just a one-time joke. I think it was, again, another Hayden Fry quote is selling the sizzle before the steak. We pulled up in front of a bar, jumped out, played, somebody filmed it and put it up. All of a sudden, before we even pulled into our first tailgate, we started to get press. One of my best friends was going through cancer and struggling. I called him one night just out of the blue. He's in the midst of chemo and was sick. I just started telling him about our idea. He laughed for 30 straight minutes. We're not doing this to be rich and famous like the poem guy, just to get people hyped and have a positive energy when they walk into the game. There was a band at Ohio State in the late 90s. They would dress up like Woody Hayes and call themselves the Dead Schembechlers. We didn't know that existed when we started this idea. Another buddy said, do you guys ever watch Parks and Rec? Andy booked the Bobby Night Ranger for a throwaway joke on one of the episodes. They sang Sister Christian dressed as Bobby Knight and were throwing chairs around the stage. But once we started telling people about, they're like, oh, like Bobby Night Ranger. Yeah. Could we get other schools to join us? Have the Foo Fighting Illini, the Spartan Garfunkel, because we know we can kick their ass at least. Doing Bridge Over Troubled Waters. We can hammer on them with our Van Halen songs. Oh, Nittany Spears. We can take out the Penn State guys. And then the Purdue brothers. This could be really fun. We're hoping another college will challenge us, see if they can beat the mighty Van Halen in a battle of the bands.
Let's shift gears to a Hawkeye legend who truly embodies what it means to study and master the game. Danan Hughes didn't just play football, he immersed himself in it. His insights on preparation, understanding strategy, and balancing multiple sports at a high level are lessons that resonate far beyond the field. Here's Danan with his take on what it truly takes to learn the game and elevate your performance. How long did it take you, coming in as a receiver and not really playing much receiver, how long did it take you to feel comfortable in that role?
I know that's not popular now for kids coming out of high school to sit and watch and redshirt and absorb, but I can't equate the amount of knowledge and understanding of the game of football, the game of baseball that I was able to take in by just sitting and watching. Now, remember, I had Bill Snyder as my offensive coordinator, one of the great coaches, never mind offensive minds, in the history of college football. There was a funny story I always tell back in the old days where you had the projector. You had to press the button on the projector to rewind. And Peter Marciano was one of our teammates, Brockton, Massachusetts guy, He was the nephew of Rocky Marciano. So he was hard-nosed, Italian, whatever you would expect Rocky Marciano's nephew to look like and be like, that's exactly what Peter. He put a check mark on the paper every time Coach Snyder rewound a play. And he rewound it 236 times, one play. And all he did was talk to the screen. He was talking to Chuck Hartley, Matt Rogers, and Tom Polsky, Jimmy Hartley, and then all of us receivers were back then. He never looked back at us. He never turned his head. Look where the tackle is. When he's lined up right there, this is what he has a tendency of doing. That safety's at 8 yards, while the other safety's at 9 yards. That's where he's going to roll up towards the line of scrimmage. So that's going to be cover 3. If he's at 9 yards and equal with the other safety, that's going to be cover 2. All these details, I'm like, wow, this is all true. I'm absorbing all of this information so that when my redshirt year was over and it was time for me to start competing to play, I saw the field in a different way. Look back at films from 89 to 92. There were times where I was adjusting my stance, my position, before the quarterback even audible. I already knew. I break the huddle. I scanned the whole defense. I'm like, oh, this is what they're going to do. I got to adjust my alignment because Matt Rogers or Jimmy Hartley, they're about to tell me something. They're about to go to a check. Remember, we used to take tests before every game. I took the quarterback test and the wide receiver test. The seeds that were planted by Coach Snyder and then cultivated by Coach Patterson, the mental side of the game made all the physical side slow down. Everything was so slow. I never felt like I was outmatched, even playing against the Michigans, Ohio States, Washington in the Rose Bowl, and Miami back when they were the U. This is just football. I never felt like I was intimidated. I never felt like I was outmatched because I always felt mentally prepared. Coach Snyder parted that understanding of the wisdom part of the game, and that actually helped me in the NFL. The reason why I was able to play 6 years in the NFL is because I knew every position. And so I could be a sub for every wide receiver position. I was a captain on special teams for 4 of my 6 years. It's all because of those seeds that were planted early on when I was a runny-nosed freshman and didn't know anything about playing wide receiver because I never played it before. And I'm just sitting there like in the theater, like watching this great movie every single day with Coach Snyder and Coach Patterson after that, going through all the intricacies of this position in this game called football. It's broadening my horizons. The game was easy. Once we got through the meetings, okay, let's go line up. Whoever's out there, they're not going to be able to contain me. I already know what they're going to do. That's what made it really cool, fun, and special.
Did Coach Snyder leave before your freshman year?
I did get Coach Snyder for my first full year, my freshman year when I was redshirted. I walked into a great situation, which I didn't even realize when they recruited me. When they recruited me and I came in as a true freshman, there were 8 senior receivers. All I had to do was redshirt. And when I went into the spring after that first year, I was number 2 on the depth chart. Just by elimination of the guys that graduated, I was already near the top of the depth chart. I didn't really have to climb to garner play time my freshman year. I had the record for the most catches as a freshman for probably 20 years. I had 40-something catches as a freshman. It was all because of the exodus of 8 guys that graduated as seniors before I was able to take the field.
Were you integrated in special teams in college as well then? Or
No,
just more receiver?
No, I never punt returned in my life. I kick returned. And when I got to the NFL, I was on practice squad for 10 games my rookie year. And one of the receivers got hurt. And Marty Schottenheimer came up to me and said, hey, we need a punt returner. Can you punt return? I was like, yeah, never did it in my life. Of course, I'm not going to say no. Like, yeah, I can do it.
That's and looking at a job. Can you do this? Yes.
Yeah, of course. One of the reasons why I was successful at punt return is because I was a center fielder in baseball and I knew how to track a ball. So I knew how to read the ball and how when the ball turns over, it's going to go further. When it drops, when the ball's spinning this way, it's going to drop. When it's spinning a little bit this way, it's going to go further. One other technique that I had is that when the ball was punted, I would turn to the side. That's an outfielder trick. If you look at outfielders, when the ball's hit, if you turn to the side, you can see the depth better. Even ground balls on the infield, shortstops, they turn to the side so that they can see the bounce better, as opposed to the ball coming straight at you. Those were two quick techniques that at the NFL level, I was able to pick up on. I was like, oh, I can track this football. I know I can catch it. It's just a matter of tracking it. I got birthed into the NFL on Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills, punt returning on Monday Night Football. That was the first game I ever played in the NFL. And that's how it started with special teams. I caught the bug, and I was one of the knuckleheads on kickoff coverage. I was an R3 or L3, so I was running through the wedge. I was a personal protector on punt coverage. I was a kickoff returner, or I was a blocker or halfback on kickoff returns. I was a bracket on punt returns. So I was on all four phases of the special teams at the NFL, but I hadn't played pretty much any of those up until I got to the NFL.
That first punt return must have been pretty crazy, like just the nerves. And your first NFL game too.
As soon as the ball was snapped, I fair caught it. It didn't matter how far it was going. I fair caught. I was like, I don't know if I can return this, but I definitely am going to catch this first. Let me woosah. Let me relax. I said, I'm going to catch this punt. Maybe next time I'll try to return it. You look back at that film, I'm sure that fair catch came out before the ball even was punted. I was like, I'm not even going to roll the dice here. I'm just going to make sure I catch it before I even try to do anything else.
Smart move, yeah.
Get your priorities in order first. That's all.
For real.
Hey, don't get fired on that first play, yeah.
I know, right? For real.
It is funny. I had a friend of mine, Steve, who was one day when I was practicing punting, he said, "Oh, come on, catch some for you." I laughed. I was like, "Good luck," because some of the balls can go back and forth like 5 or 6 feet coming down and all that. There was a returner when I was like at the practice squad with the Jets. I think Leon Johnson was his name, and he was a good enough athlete where he could do that and he would catch it like 2 inches off the ground. And I was like, that's a special talent that you can track that ball and then be able to just be goofing around basically and catch it with his fingertips right off the ground. Like,
yeah, there's so many different drills now from a punt return perspective that I didn't experience at Iowa, but in the pros, we would lay face down and the ball would punt. We would hear the thump, and we'd have to get up and try to track the ball. We'd have to turn around and face the coach behind us. We'd hear the thump, and then he'd tell us to turn around, and we'd have to go get the ball. There were times where we would have to keep our eyes closed. He'd make us spin 360 or 720 and then go get the ball. And obviously, none of that applies to what you would do in the game. What it does do is get you out of your comfort zone and forces you to emulate a little bit of turmoil or turbulence, jumping up and spinning around 360 and then finding the ball and catching it and securing it almost made it easier when you're in the game and it's Monday Night Football that you have to catch it in traffic. You're not going to be fazed by all the bodies flying around you because you emulated being a little bit uncomfortable. There's creative ways to be able to be a professional at your craft. The Chiefs, we used to pay a lot of attention to that, and I'm so grateful for it. Special teams coaches, as you guys know, they're unique animals as well. They're right below the chart of Iowa wrestlers and special teams coaches. You got to be a little twisted to be a special teams coach, especially at the NFL levels. There's a lot of expletives and all that stuff that come out of coaches' mouths when you're trying to get everybody riled up. It's unique, and I talk about this on the Chiefs broadcast all the time. At the NFL level, everybody that's played special teams probably has never played it before, in part because they were probably superstars on offense or defense. So in college, they probably didn't play it. In high school, they definitely didn't play it because they were the number one linebackers, number one defensive backs, number one receivers, or tight ends, etc. So when you get to the NFL and you've gotten to the NFL because you're good at those positions, now you have to retrain your mind that, okay, I'm not going to beat out Derek Thomas. I'm not going to beat out Neil Smith. I'm not going to beat out these superstars on offense and defense. I got to be able to make plays on special teams. And it's a different dynamic that I don't think people recognize as tough as that it really is.
Let's shift gears to the lighter side of the game and hear from Ricchard Carter about the camaraderie only teammates can provide. From hilarious pranks in the locker room to moments where you couldn't help but laugh on the field, Ricchard shares some of the best stories about being part of a football family. These are the moments that make the grind worthwhile.
Never forget, I'm running full speed. I run a dude over, make the tackle, run off the field, high fiving, D-Gib and all them. Boo, good job, boo, getting me all excited. We're killing it. I go back again. We score, I'm running, rip the dude out the way, about to make the tackles. I must have rolled back around. Bam! I'm up in the air. Boom! So now the run is past me. The dude is on top of me. He's boom, boom. And I'm trying to get him off of me. But the bad part about it is everybody's away from me. My legs are like a bug on the floor, scrambling up like this. It's like, get off me. I'm running back to the sideline. D-Gib, Willie, and Demo just looking. 3 of them are just standing there and nobody's saying nothing. They just bust out laughing. They said, you just got beat up by somebody from UNI. Oh my God. And you couldn't do nothing about it. We in the special teams film session. D-Gib is like, hey coach, can you run that back again? I need to see what happened. You keep singing me. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. For like 5 freaking minutes. The coaches don't know. All the wideouts in there dying laughing. That was something we always used to do when you used to get whooped or something bad happened. Oh, coach, can you roll that again? You're talking about something totally different than what you're really looking at. And coach is, oh yeah, he did a good job. And you looking at where the dude just got whooped. What makes it worse is if coach comes and says, by the way, Ricchard, what are you doing over there? Now everybody, Those were the days, man. The best ever, but the worst ever as well. Oh my goodness, man. Those are the things you miss the most, right? Like running off the field and you standing next to your boys. I never forget when Willie had a bad ankle. He couldn't run routes only on one side because his ankle was bad. He caught a little out route. It was a good route. He's like, man, it was an out route. It wasn't nothing big. And we're dying laughing. It was a little 5-yard route. That don't mean nothing with Timmy D went for 110, Those were the things that you missed. You reflect on the laughter and the joy. I don't remember our records. I remember moments of us doing things that like, wow, that's football. That's locker room. You hear pros mention that a lot, right? They always say, I miss the locker room talk. I miss being on a bus, being escorted by the police through Coralville or East Lansing, or hopping on a plane, the bus goes right to the plane. You get out and you got your shades on.
Back to those days of people clowning each other.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was special teams always had moments where people would get hit, knocked out, and get clowned. Or the funniest was someone did a Lionel Richie song. Decleated, and somebody in the back of the room says, hello? Is it me you're looking for? And I was like, the funniest part, I was on the floor because it was high five. That's the best ever, I think I've ever heard.
Listening to that story, I can imagine what happened. Decleated, and now you're hearing the song, hello? Your head is ringing, and you're like, is it me? You know what I'm saying? That's football, man. That is what I think all of us loved about the game.
For sure. I need clarification, though. The nickname they gave me, I thought you gave yourself that nickname.
I did.
Okay, gotcha. You have to tell that story.
I thought it'd be better if I said they gave it to me, but now that you brought that out, Nick, I thought we wasn't talking about everything. But so the way it happened was one of my boys back home, Jason Perry, one of my best friends, one day, just out the blue, was like, my name is Ricchard. Most people say wrong. They say Ricchard. Or if it's Siri's calling me, it'll say Ricchard. I'm calling you Bouchard, just out the blue. Bouchard. Everybody started saying Bouchard. I was already at Iowa. I was telling the story to Demo and the guys. Somehow Coach P hears it. He's like, oh, we're going to call him Bouchard the Frenchman. So he started saying Bouchard. He told the newspaper, I got the first Frenchman from New Jersey, from Ricchard Bouchard. It went from Bouchard to Boo. I was like, just call me Boo. Or Bouchard, then they shut it down to Boo. It was either Demo or said, I forgot your real name for a period. It was like, Ricchard, what are you talking about? Ricchard. Oh, Boo. Funny story. Big L's wife was like, he was like, yo, when they first moved here, oh, we going over to Boo house. She like, don't be calling no grown man Boo. And so she always joked with me all these years. I still don't believe they call you Boo. Everybody just says Boo. And so I'm Boo. That's funny you brought that up. I started it, but they took it over. Teammates do.
We didn't know the origin either. I guess his name's Boo now.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was talking to Tariq Holman, who's another New Jersey guy. Tariq calls me Boo Juice. That's a story because we all lived together in Pheasant Ridge.
We did. Yep. We had a 4-bedroom.
How did you get
I
a
think
four?
I
You
started
got a 4-bedroom?
Yeah.
I
Bro,
think I was part of the crew that started that whole thing.
Holy smokes. You had a 4-bedroom. That's like seeing Bigfoot. We had a 3. Somebody spilled juice in the living room, and it was a big stain. And so Tariq was like, that's Boo Juice. From that point on, he called me Boo Juice. He called my wife Mrs. Boo Juice. He don't call her Carmen. Hey, Miss Juice. From day one, he called her Juice. And to this day, if we call him right now, he'd be like, what's up, Boo Juice? Yeah.
I think we almost have to do that to see. That'd be hilarious.
Yo,
This is exactly like practice. I'm crying. I don't even know half the origins of these stories. It's so funny. You guys just busting on each other, and
Oh
it's like
my
I
God,
can't
got
even
tears in my
concentrate.
eyes, seriously. Because to this day, nobody knows who spilled the juice, but they blame me. They were like, no, that's Boo Juice. That's funny, bro. I got tears in my eyes thinking of those stories.
Training tables were funny because that was the culmination of all this. It was
Comedy
like
hour.
a comedy show.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Those who don't know, training tables like where we ate, right? That's where we had our meals during dinner at practice. Growing up, my parents only cooked steak, well done with A1 sauce. That was it. So when I get to Iowa, I didn't realize that there was different temperatures of the steak. We saw the big linemen used to eat the rare ones. And we used to walk past and was like, yo, he's eating lion kill. Like that's blood really coming out of that. I think it's still breathing. The heart is still going. Like back to training table, man. So remember we used to call the back where all the Texas and New Jersey, New York, we had the ghetto back there in the hood. And then we had the suburbs in the front. Sometimes you think it could get into blows because especially like days we had one-on-ones. If you felt like you beat somebody, you walk in there and being the jokesters that we are, like, oh, he got you today. And then next thing you know, people start, you got like, all right, calm down. And then, especially like big linemen, that used to be crazy. Especially if the scout team used to get a little bit of them, it used to be like the light switch. Whoa, like where did this come from? And it used to carry on and but we used to have so many jokes. And I think you had to have really thick skin. It could be about football. It could be about relationships. If your boys heard about it, oh, they're gonna let you know. They're gonna let you know. And then if you show you got feelings about it,
It's over.
It's like throwing salt into a wound. You can't show no emotion. It's bad, really bad. It was the best time. You got mentally tough no matter what. Whether you was good or bad, somebody was going to give it to you. Seen a lot of people just start moving, no longer sitting there.
From the moment Nate Kaeding stepped onto the field as a freshman, he was part of the foundation that helped Kirk Ferentz's Hawkeyes to national prominence. Nate's incredible work ethic and clutch performances set the tone for the program's turnaround. Let's dive into how Nate and his teammates helped cement Kirk's rise to stardom and solidify the legacy of Iowa football.
When I look back, the cool thing, it was always on this trajectory, right? 2002 is certainly the pinnacle, undefeated in the Big Ten. That was the year we lost to Iowa State at home to start early in the season. Then we ended up losing to the Orange Bowl to USC, but top 5 in the nation. And that year was the storybook year. Brad was the Heisman Trophy candidate. Guys like Robert Gallery and myself, a lot of first-team All-Americans, won individual awards. I was just blessed to have came in at a time when the program had transitioned from Hayden to Kirk, played a small part in just helping get the program back on good footing. I think up to a couple of those like really premier seasons. Makes you feel good seeing Kirk and the run he's had. They had to start somewhere with some group of guys. We were part of that foundation they started 20 plus years ago. As I look back on the Iowa career, the most fun part of it was coming in and building it back up.
I was watching the highlights from the Alamo Bowl. Did you know the guy that tried to tackle you at the end of it?
That's my cousin. Kirk's third season, first bowl game in 3-4 years. Kirk's first bowl game as a head coach. It was a big deal for us. Our Super Bowl, we're going to San Antonio, playing this bowl game, tie ball game, kick a field goal with 20, 30 seconds left. Bob Sanders catches a Hail Mary pass from Cliff Kingsbury, of all people. Mike Leach was the coach at Texas Tech, so there's some other fun names involved with that game. My cousin comes in from the stands and chucks me across the field as we're running off the field. That was tons of fun. It gave us a lot of momentum going into that big 2002 season.
I always joke we should have bought a condo in San Antonio because of the number of times we were there through my career and my brother's career.
Great location for a bowl game.
Do you have any on-field memories of Iowa that really stand out?
There's certainly your kicks, the Alamo Bowl winner and other long ones. Brion mentioned the one characteristic you want as a kicker is consistency. My junior, senior year, putting together 2 good years without missing hardly at all. Being in that top tier of college kickers was just that grind of one kick at a time. As a kicker, you go see your parents after the game and you're only happy if you were perfect. That's your day. So it's managing through the course of an 11, 12 game season and just stacking those together. That's probably the best on-field memory for me, having those couple years where it's just a high level of consistency, working through a season in a way where you just don't have many mistakes. And of course, some huge wins, memories with your teammates, and the home game against Purdue and the Brad Banks rollout to Dallas Clark, and going up to Michigan, the beating Joe Paterno at Penn State twice was awesome. Going to Michigan, winning that big game in 2002, carrying the goalposts out of the old Metrodome after winning the Big Ten championship. Those are the memories on field, but then in the locker room, right? Nothing better than celebrating a big win with all your buddies and people you care a lot about after the game, bus rides home. Those are the good memories.
So I'm the odd person out in this conversation. Each of you have scored a touchdown. I have not. Tell us about your touchdown run.
Yeah. First, you run for your life. If you're a kicker and the ball is in your hands, it doesn't feel right by any stretch of the imagination. But we were at Ohio State my senior year. We had this fake field goal in back to junior year. You needed to be on the left hash because it was one where the holder got it. I went around and he flipped it over his shoulder. You take it, run to the right pylon. We were down maybe 17-3. It was going into the fourth quarter. I can't remember the code name. Dave Bradley looked to make sure the formation was good. He gave a hand signal no one else knew. He could tell his eyes were getting big, and he's like, all right, we're doing it. He just caught it, flipped it over his shoulder. I think there was like 5 or 6 holds that didn't get called. Luckily, I ran fast and hard as I could to the right pylon and scored the touchdown. It was perfect timing, and we were able to execute. Scoring a touchdown at the Horseshoe is pretty cool.
Billy Reardon didn't let being undersized define him. Instead, he used it as fuel to outwork, outthink, and outlast his opponents. From grit and heart to a relentless drive, Billy's story shows how determination can overcome any physical limitations. Let's explore how he turned this perceived disadvantage into a defining strength.
I remember you scoring a touchdown, Nick, as a tight end even. You're probably the first punter in Iowa history to score a touchdown when we were down to our 5th string quarterback, Jefferson Bates, Illinois.
I started off with Driscoll, and then he got hurt, and then who came in for him? Dupre. He got hurt early in the year.
Sherman was hurt. Okay.
Corby Smith came in and got played a couple plays, and he got hurt. And Jefferson Bates came in, maybe finished out or got hurt too.
Maybe he couldn't even throw the ball more than 10 yards.
Did you hear the Sherman interview?
No.
Then that 94 season, he talks about how they got him back on the field. He was in a boot. He played that game. Even though he traveled, wasn't expecting to play. They said, we have to put you in. It was at Purdue where we tied. He came in the second half, tied the game, said they had to inject him with a shot.
It was the only time he played at Purdue. That had to be one of the last ties in college football. Sherman ties it up. Purdue marches down the field. They had a field goal to win, and they missed it. So we had a tie. That was the only tie I'd ever experienced. It's like kissing your sister. It felt more like a loss than a win. I don't think we ever got in any overtime games after that.
The worst thing about the tie kept us out of the bowl game picture. So we
did it?
5 wins and we needed 6. So we stayed home that year too.
5-1.
Sherman finished that year.
Sherman's another quarterback you don't hear people talking about. He has to be up there in the record books for yardage and wins. He won 8 games his sophomore year, 9 games his junior year. They were pretty good his senior year. They were highly ranked that year. They went to a bowl game.
I think he was 8th overall when I looked last. So going back to you starting your senior year, how much did you weigh at that point?
I don't think I was over 265 pounds. I was the smallest starting offensive lineman in the Big Ten our senior year. I had Mike Goff on one side and then Derrick Rose or Matt Reichel. It was always nice next to those guys so they could help out if I had a big 300-pounder over me. I remember my career at Iowa, it was tough because Coach Fry was bringing in a lot of offensive linemen, trying to find a replacement for Weigman. I was the walk-on little guy. And I got really lucky because those guys seemed to just fade away. And I still hung in there. And I remember my big break came in the Sun Bowl. Casey Weigman got hurt in the third quarter. I took over and we had a nice drive all the way downfield, like 70 or 80-yard drive, and scored. We might have scored 2 times to put it away. I remember Coach Fry coming up and saying, Billy, I think you'll be our starting center next year. I remember that was a big moment. I was the number 1 guy after that bowl game. It was a special year. We went 9-3 our senior year. We had big wins. I remember we shut out Wisconsin in our last game in Kinnick Stadium, 30-0. We had a great offensive line, though. We had Verba, McKinney, and Goffer were all starting on that offensive line. They all had nice, long pro careers. And they go back to your question. I was not a big guy. It was tough. That was my biggest problem. In high school, I was undersized. I had no college offers. I came to visit Iowa. I got lucky because I didn't know what I was going to do out of high school. I had no offers anywhere. Going to Iowa was the farthest thing from my mind. My brother was a student there, but I remember being upset that I didn't get more exposure or interest from Division I schools. We had about 4 guys on our team that were Division I players. I had a really good high school team. My track coach in high school, he came up, he was a older guy. He played football at Notre Dame. He was a Marine, and he came up to me and he said, I heard from your mom, you weren't happy how things were looking. His name was Frank Amato. He said, get some film together, bring it to my office tomorrow. Let's watch it, see if we can find a place for you to go. We watched the film, and he said, about 10 years ago, I sent a guy named Mike Yaculo to Iowa as a walk-on. I think you could do the same thing. Hayden Fry will play his walk-ons. If you deserve to be out there. Coach Austin was a recruiting coordinator. Ducci was the old recruiting coordinator. He just got promoted to offensive line coach after Coach O'Hara died. I remember going out undersized, but I thought I could play. And I remember going out to visit during a spring practice. That's how late it was before we made our decision on where we were going to college. Coach Fry was leaving the practice, turns around and introduced himself. He said, we're pretty good to walk-ons here. He brought up like Brett Bielma's our team captain, Al Cross, who was an all Big Ten tight end. Al was a hell of a player. Paul Kuyava scoring a touchdown against Michigan. He said, Billy, we got 10 guys in the 2 deep right now that started as walk-ons. It was a 10-second conversation, it felt like, with Coach Fry. All right, I'm in. I'm coming.
So Coach Fry didn't show up to your house and sweet talk your parents? No?
I did listen to Sed's interview and all the visitors he had. I don't think Coach Fry knew who I was. We might have had one conversation a year when I was playing at Iowa.
That was the same with me. I don't think he knew I was on the team till first week.
He'd walk by you, he'd be like, I bet he doesn't know my name, but he did. He knew everybody's name. I remember he used to fire some coaches on the sidelines. Did you guys ever hear him fire anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
He'd go up to coaches and get in an argument with them, say, you're fired. Like, you pull a Donald Trump on him. I remember one time he fired me my senior year against Illinois. You guys remember those Illinois defenses, how good they were? They were unbelievable.
That's a wrap for today's special compilation episode. We hope you enjoyed this journey through some of the most unforgettable stories from our amazing guests. If you love these moments, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share your favorite story with us on our social platforms. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered.